Now we want to tell you what some of the atrocious conservatives are saying about the Virginia Tech shooting. We already told you some of them are saying there should have been more guns. Now, Keith Olbermann chronicles the ones that blame the victims. So let's give Countdown with Keith Olbermann a little bit of credit here. Let's run his clip, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
The bronze to right-wing columnist Debbie Schlussel. Between her references to, quote, Oprah Winfrey, unquote, she first wrote yesterday that authorities did not immediately identify the shooter at Virginia Tech, so he might have been a, quote, packy and part of a coordinated terrorist attack by Muslims. She later updated this to conclude that he was a Chinese national, then a South Korean national, quote, yet another reason to stop letting in so many foreign students. The shooter, of course, had been a resident alien who had been here since he was 8.5 years old. Wait, it gets worse. Don't blame immigrants. Blame the dead students. The silver to Nathaniel Blake of the publication Human Events. The students at Virginia Tech, he writes, should be heartily ashamed of themselves. College classrooms have scads of young men who are at their physical peak, he writes, and none of them seems to have done anything beyond ducking, running, and holding doors shut. Something is clearly wrong with the men in our culture. Now, let's start with you. Well, with our winner tonight, John Derbyshire of the National Review Online, fresh from saying he wouldn't mind seeing the English sailors captured by Iran physically injured or worse back in England, he writes now, setting aside the ludicrous campus ban on licensed conceals, why didn't anyone rush the guy? Ellipsis. At the very least, count the shots and jump in reloading or changing hands. Ellipsis. If I thought I was going to die anyway, I'd at least take a run at the guy. This isn't one of the action film or James Bond fantasies running through your head, sir. This is real life, and those kids you mock are really dead. John Derbyshire, today's worst person in the world.
You know, they always blame moderate Muslim leaders for not chastising the 9/11 guys enough and terrorists enough. But in fact, of course, they have. Just the media didn't cover it. They all put out statements saying that 9/11 was terrible and that terrorism is terrible. They do it all the time. But here it is, you know, here are some conservative writers and commentators saying it's the victim's fault. And so where is Bill O'Reilly? Where is, George Bush? Where is John McCain? John McCain is doing the exact opposite. He said, quote, there should be no gun control. Okay? And so he's saying, yeah, he's going along with this Derbyshire, John Gibson school of thought, is that if it was the OK Corral and everybody had guns, it'd be fine. I think they're Terry Schiavoing this. I don't think they realize the anger that this causes in the American people. I think they're going to get a poll one of these days, and it's going to say, Americans believe there should be reasonable limits on gun control. It doesn't mean you take the guns away. Okay, I got it. America's got a fetish with it. And Second Amendment and all that great stuff, right? Now, but should there be reasonable limits? I think America's going to shout, hell yeah. And they're not going to agree with this idea of, no, give everybody a gun. Conceal it, give it to all the wackos and all the sane people and all the professors and let them go to town. They're not going to buy it. That's not what they're buying. So now, and McCain, to add insult to injury, says, oh, well, he could have done the same thing with knives. Oh, come on, man. Come on. I mean, you've already lost all shred of credibility.
He killed 33. Look, I don't even want to go there. You know, I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Now, I did want to touch on Nathaniel Blake, the second guy that Olbermann mentioned there. He said, oh, all they did was barricade doors. Why didn't anybody rush him? You know that these guys would be the first one to wet their pants if it really happened. The first one's under the table. You know it, okay? And there's somebody shooting at you. There's nothing wrong with going under the table. You know who'd go hide under the table? Me, okay? Because there's somebody shooting. Okay, so
and these kids who survive this tragedy are going to be scarred by a post-traumatic shock for the rest of their lives, and they're also going to have idiots like Nathaniel Blake or whatever his name is saying that they did something wrong when they did nothing wrong. And if you're from Virginia Tech and you're listening, you did nothing wrong.
Nathaniel Blake thinks that he would have rushed the gun. I would have loved to seen him in the room, see if he really would have rushed the gun guy. But anyway, last thing on this. Remember the Romanian professor, the one that survived the Holocaust, that died blocking the door? That's who Nathaniel Blake is making fun of. That he didn't rush the gunner. Instead, he blockaded the door and gave his life after surviving the Holocaust to protect these kids. And this conservative prick is making fun of him? I mean, is there no bounds of decency? Absolutely none. None for these guys.